It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of October 8th, 1999. We got 4 movies to look at today, so let's just go ahead and jump on into it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, Harrison Ford and Kristen Scott Thomas and Sidney Pollack's Random Hearts. So this is based off of a novel by Warren Adler that was released in 1984, and it's about a police officer and a congresswoman who discover that their spouses were having an affair prior to being killed in an air disaster. You would think this would be somewhat interesting, considering that you've got Harrison Ford and Kristen Scott Thomas among the cast and an esteemed director like Sidney Pollack, but, yeah, this is a really boring film. It's a really dull movie. The mystery is not that engaging. These actors are trying their best to try to keep this together in any way, shape, or form, and they just can't do it, man. I mean, this thing really struggles to be something intriguing and interesting. It's not interesting as a mystery. It's not interesting as like this somewhat of a romantic thriller in a way. Like the big problem with the movie is that the plot really has no plot. There really is not a whole lot to the plot with this, and it's a long movie. It's a film that's over 2 hours long, and it drags on. It's a really, really dull movie, and it's a film that really, I feel like could have been a lot better if they had a better script to work with. You got a good director, you got good talent in front of the camera, but everything else about this movie is just really, really dull. It's a lifeless film that has nothing worth it, and you know, Harrison Ford probably could have made this work back when he did Presumed Innocent in 1990, but this is 1999, and Harrison Ford's getting up there in age. And even a guy like him, as a badass he is, he can't really make this work. And unfortunately for him and Kristen Scott Thomas, they're trying their best, but the material just isn't there to really warrant anything of value here. It's a real disappointment of a film, considering all the talent that's on the camera, and also with the director behind the camera. But other than that, though, this thing really needed a much better script. It was in development hell for a number of years, and usually with these development hell projects, you really need the right people to come together to make this work, or you get a really, really bad film. And this is an example of a really, really dull film that has nothing to it at the end. And, yeah, not much more to say about that one. So that's Random Hearts. Let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Molly Shannon in Superstar. So this is, of course, based off the Saturday Night Live character Mary Catherine Gallagher. And by the way, before we get to this movie, there was something I wanted to bring up with The Night at the Roxbury, because this was something that happened back around this time with Saturday Night Live. They did this thing where you can find this article on the website for Saturday Night Live talking about what the contracts were like back then. And basically what the contracts were was that the new contract for first-year Saturday Night Live players is quite different from the ones offered new cast members prior to the start of the season before, back in 1998. Basically, they had this thing where NBC could take a Saturday Night Live player off the show anytime after his or her second year on the program and put him and her on an NBC sitcom. A cast member does have the option of saying no to the first 2 shows proposed by NBC, but must accept the third. And NBC dictates the length of the sitcom's contract, which could run as long as 6 years. In a nightmare scenario for the managers and agents, NBC could sign someone to a 6-year Saturday Night Live deal, then conceivably at the end of those 6 years, toss them into an NBC sitcom for another 6 years, as they call their indentured servitude, showbiz style. But this is where it gets interesting. The new contract also gives NBC and Lorne Michaels considerable say in the movie careers of Saturday Night Live cast members. Under its terms of the Saturday Night Live Films Company, which put out Night at the Roxbury, and it's also a co-production with Paramount, NBC, and Lorne Michaels, they have a 3-movie option and would pay the stars set $75,000 for the first film, $150,000 for the second, and $300,000 for the third. Those rates used to be negotiated at higher rates, and the network can also pay a star similar rates to say no to a movie being made in another studio. And basically the quote here is that, now you can tell them, sorry, you can't do the Farrelly Brothers $10 million movie. You have to do this SNL fart movie for $75,000. That's the quote from one of the managers there. So this was a very interesting time when it comes to those type of things. There was a longer story to this, but unfortunately I can't find the full details on the deal. But it's really, really weird on how that played out. But anyway, talking about Superstar. Superstar is based off of, like I said, the recurring SNL character by Molly Shannon, Mary Catherine Gallagher, who's a sardonic caricature of an unpopular teenage Catholic schoolgirl. She's prone to comically severe mood swings, alternatively hyperactive and ponderous. She suffers from stage fright, but is also hyper-competitive. She once engaged in a sting-off with Whitney Houston in one of the Christmas sketches they did for SNL, and Egan Maniacal believing she's a superstar, and she was considered the first breakout star of the show. And here you have the story where all she wants to do is be kissed soulfully. That's her dream. She decides she can realize her dream that if she becomes a superstar. So her prayers, her fantasies, and her conversations with her other friends focus on achieving superstardom. Her big chance is a school talent competition. Her main competition is Evian, played by Elaine Hendricks, who's the school beauty, and is Dancing with Sky, played by Will Ferrell, the object of Mary Catherine's kiss dream. Mary Catherine gets some talent show help with her fellow special education students, her grandmother, and Jesus himself, and inspiration from sequels in her past, watching are Sky, Evian, and a silent classmate. I mean, the plot is really stupid, but the plot of the A Night at the Roxbury is also pretty dumb too. But they were at least self-aware with how bad it was in many of those scenes in that film. Here, it's self-aware, but there's not really any funny jokes to really work with to make it work. It's not like the film isn't trying to put some good comedy there, but just nothing is really working here. There are good setups, but there's no real payoffs. They kind of take the cheap way out. And the biggest problem the movie has is that you don't have any good laughs in a comedy that's not meant to be taken seriously at all. Plus, as you see in the trailers, they're taking a lot of the recurring gags in those Mary Catherine Gallagher shorts. I mean, you got to have her dancing into her whole thing of chairs and falling over. You got to have her do the thing with her hands, putting her underneath her armpits, and then going up and smelling them. It's just like, okay, so what else do you have for us? I mean, Molly Shannon is a fully capable comedic actress who's proven time and time again that she can make us laugh in movies and TV shows to make something like this work. Maybe if she had more to do with the script, maybe it probably could have worked better to the film's advantage. I'll give her credit. She is trying her best to make it work with the material given, but it's not her fault the comedy isn't all that good. It's a movie that I think could have worked better if there was more input from Shannon on the script itself to make it work as a comedy, but it's pretty lame as it stands. It's not funny. It's pretty bland. It's too predictable. It's just a disjointed film that you feel like could have been a whole lot better, and it just really isn't. It's a real disappointment of a film. Like I said, I kind of wish there was more to it, but so that's Superstar. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, Steven Soderbergh's The Limey, starring Terrence Stamp. Yeah, I almost forgot this was a Steven Soderbergh film. And I usually like a lot of his work, and I know what it is, but I couldn't put it together that this was a Steven Soderbergh film at first. But here you have an English career criminal played by Terrence Stamp who travels to the United States to investigate the recent suspicious death of his daughter. And you have Leslie Ann Warren, Louise Guzman, Barry Newman, Nicky Cannon, and Peter Fonda among the cast in here. Lem Dobbs is the writer of this film. He also is the guy that he wrote Dark City last year. And yeah, this is kind of an underrated film, and you honestly do forget that this is indeed a Steven Soderbergh movie. But that's really the great thing about Steven Soderbergh is that he usually can make all these different movies, and you can rarely tell that it's his movie until you see his name in the credits. It's just like, yeah, that's something that I never really expected from this. That this was actually one of his films, and it's one that took me a long time to really get to see because, like I said, I had no idea this was one of his movies, But yeah, it's kind of an underrated little gem. It's a film that really shows Terrence Stamp's potential as a leading actor. Leslie Ann Warren's given a good performance. You got Peter Fonda, Louise Guzman, Nancy Lenerin, Melissa George, just Bill Duke. A good cast overall here. A really convincing storyline here. And it is very short, too. It's only about an hour and a half long. So it's not making you sit there for a long period of time like something like Random Hearts. And you're at least interested in what's going on with the story. You're interested to where the story is going to end up going. And it does have a good payoff at the end. It's a very good, interesting film. Very underrated movie, honestly. It's one that I think you should definitely check out. If you love Steven Soderbergh's work, you'll definitely get a kick out of this. And if you've been waiting to see Terrence Stamp in a leading role like this is actually worth a watch. I think he delivers one of his strongest performances in this film. So The Limey, yeah, definitely check this one out if you haven't seen it. It's definitely worth a watch. So, with that said, on to the last movie, and that is Hilary Swank and her Oscar-winning performance in Boys Don't Cry. Hilary Swank plays this this trans man, Brandon Tina, who we've actually talked about him before. He's actually been the subject of a couple of other films, most notably the Brandon Tina story, which we looked at in a documentary last year, actually, in 1998. Hilary Swank plays him, who attempts to find himself in love in Nebraska, but falls victim to a brutal hate crime perpetrated by two male acquaintances. And you have Chloe Sevigny as his girlfriend, Lana Tisdale. And like I said, this is something that we kind of delved into in another is with the documentary that came out the year before. But this is the one that, like I said, won Hilary Swank Warner Academy Award for Best Actress, I believe. Yeah, Best Actress, because Angelina Jolie, I think, won Best Supporting Actress that year. But it's a pretty good movie, and it really is a showcase to show what Hilary Swank can do as an actress. I mean, it's real. She plays this role really convincingly well. If you look at pictures of the guy that she's playing, she really gets the look down. I mean, they did a pretty good job of making her look like this person. And it's a movie that really has stood the test of time. I think a lot of people can still look at this film over 25 years later and notice that this film really is still very much relevant, even by today's standards. I mean, it's a film that really is well done. Even if we don't know the story of this person in real life, Brandon Teena, you can get by the performances in this a lot. Hilary Swank, Chloe Sevigny, you believe their chemistry together. The director, Kimberly Pierce, does a pretty good job handling this story. The subject matter is done in a way that it's uncomfortable at times, but never to the point where it's never like Schindler's List or 12 Years a Slave, where it's gonna be really hard to watch a movie like this over and over again. But this is one you can watch and feel like you got a lot out of it. It's a film that's really well made, has great performances all around, a really good director at the helm of it. It's a really good film. I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it already. Watch it mostly for Hilary Swank, because she really shows she really shows why she won the Oscar that year. She definitely deserved it. It's a great performance. Really solid film. I definitely recommend Boys Don't Cry. So on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. When we meet next time, we'll have Brad Pitt and Edward Norton in David Fincher's Fight Club, Bruce Willis and Michelle Pfeiffer in The Story of Us, The Omega Code, and Richard Farnsworth in The Straight Story. So 4 films to look at next time. We'll double those on the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the plays on the next page, check out the previous episode, and if you like what you saw, hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching, and as always, take care.